Hi, I'm Charlene, and I have a 30-plus year career as a broadcaster and as a spokesperson. So I do a lot of talking, and every once in a while somebody will tease me that I bet you wouldn't be able to talk if I held your hands down. Well, yes, I would be able to talk, but only because I've trained myself. And you know what? Not using your hands makes for a less interesting speaker and for a less engaged audience, whether it's one person or 100 people. And there is a science to prove that not using gestures can actually decrease an audience's level of comprehension and understanding. Too much hands though, and you look like a jittery juggler, and you'll have the same results if you didn't use them at all. So in this video, I'm going to give you some tips, tricks, and examples of how to use your hands so that your audience is engaged with you as a speaker and connects with what you're saying. And as always, I'm going to give you a secret behind-the-scenes trick that I used to take my hands from the jittery juggler to an effective storyteller. Welcome to my channel. Never met a mic I didn't like. It's all about helping you communicate more confidently so you can be seen as a topic expert, a brand builder, and even a thought leader. So if you find this video helpful, please hit like below, and while you're at it, just subscribe to the channel. So in this video, we're going to learn why you should use your hands and other gestures when speaking or presenting, and how you should be talking with your hands to become a memorable and impactful speaker, presenter, or media interview. You know, a recently published study found that words are more accurately heard when accompanied by hand gestures. So the group did a series of experiments on volunteers who viewed videos of people speaking with their hands, and then another group speaking without their hands. And they found that hand gestures, when done right, do influence how certain words are heard. And other studies have shown that certain hand gestures can alter your audience's impression of you. Now, ideally, you want them to see you as smart, credible, trustworthy, informative, energetic, and maybe a little funny. In fact, a 2015 study that analyzed TED Talks found that the most popular viral speakers use nearly twice as many hand gestures as the least popular speakers. So first, though, we're going to tackle the jittery juggler, the overuse of those hands. Remember, if everything is important, then nothing stands out. And I get how hard it is not to overuse your hands. Studies have shown that it's in our DNA, which means we are born knowing how to talk with our hands before we even know how to talk with our words.
Un pollito todo procesado. Tiene queso mantecoso, queso cremoso, tiene nutrientes, vitaminas, calcio. ¿Por qué no comes?
So in that adorable video, even though we don't understand what the baby is saying, we know that she thought what she had to say was very important and wanted to make sure that her mom was engaged with her. So before we can learn how to use the right gestures at the right time, we first need to learn how to get those hand gestures under control. All right, so here is my behind-the-scenes secret trick. I was a very green reporter at my first TV station, KFSM Channel 5, the CBS affiliate in Fort Smith, Arkansas. When I was reporting live, I could either use a handheld mic that you see pictured here, or the clip-on lavalier mic, which a lot of you probably own. Well, the times that I would wear the hands-free lavalier mic, I noticed that my hands were all over the place. Now, I'd be pumped with adrenaline because I was new and I was nervous. The golden rule for your hand gestures say that your hands should stay within your box. Now that box goes from the top of your shoulders to the bottom of your waist and extends out to your wrists. Now to train myself to stay within my box, I started using the handheld mic, as we called it, and holding my notepad in the other hand, so that I was pretty much putting limits on my hands. So because my mic had to stay right under my mouth and I needed my notepad to glance at, I couldn't do my hands all over the place. By holding something with my one hand and limiting the movement in the other, it made me use my hands only when I absolutely needed to and forced me to stay within my box. That exercise of self-discipline is how I train myself to be more aware of my hand gestures and use them only when needed and to keep them under control. You can do this same exercise at home or at work. Practice having conversations with friends or coworkers by holding a fairly full cup of coffee or beverage, something that would spill if you overuse that hand. Now what's going to happen is that other hand is going to want to overcompensate, but now at least you can focus on one hand and not both of them. Then switch and practice using the other hand to gesture. Again, the goal is to start becoming aware of how you are using your hands and break that habit of too much hand talking. I recommend you do this with each hand for about a week each, but if you need more, have at it. But a week should really do the trick. Well, let me know in the comments below if this exercise helped you. Okay, so now that we have some self-awareness of our hands, let's talk about how to use them as tools. Now, even though I just told you to practice using minimal hand gestures, we're going to jump right in and we're going to talk about big hand gestures. Now, these work best on a stage, but tip, if you are going to do it during a television interview, make sure you mention it to the producer or the reporter that you are going to need a wider shot because you are going to be making some big hand gestures to illustrate your point. Now, why is that important that you tell them ahead of time? You want to let them know that because the camera shot will most likely be focused just on the speakers with not a lot of room, and you're going to end up making all these hand gestures outside the frame and your viewers aren't going to see it. Now, the reason that big gestures are so effective on a stage, because the stage is really big. And so when you take up a lot of space on that stage and make full gestures, studies show that you're going to be perceived as powerful and confident. Yeah, we all want that. But before you use any gestures, let's learn how to use the right gestures at the right time. So first, decide ahead of time what words in your presentation or your script or your interview that you want to emphasize because they're important or your audience needs help visualizing it or to keep track of several key points. For example, counting or listing. Well, number one, you can use your fingers to track that list. Number two, it helps people pay attention to the next number. But tip, if you're going to say you have 3 points, you want to make sure you remember all 3. A way out of that is just say you have several key points. That way, if God forbid you forget one, nobody's going to know but you. You can also use your hands, palms up, to show, choices or to break up pieces of information. Now, when you use your fingers, here's an important point. Point them at the sky, not at your audience. Nobody likes to feel dictated to. Next, decide which words need a hand gesture to help your audience create a visual image in their heads. For example, you can use that when you're trying to explain size or scope. The community started with 100 people, then it quickly grew to 1,000. To do contrast, well, we have a group A here, and then we have group B here. Now, this next one is what tour guides call the show. This is a large category of gestures to help your audience visualize what you are saying, and you already know a bunch of them. Check, please. We all know what that means, right? Your hands are signing your name to your bill. The phone call gesture, right? When it looks like you're talking on a phone. Tapping your finger to your temple to illustrate thinking or a smart idea. And finally, which words will help you come across as smart and sincere? Our hands on our heart. But tip, be aware of your lavalier mic because it's very easy to forget and hit it with that popping noise. It's very distracting. Open arms with palms up. Throughout the world, Palms Up has sent a message of congeniality, humility, and honesty. And the fist pump, come on. It just oozes energetic encouragement and determination. These are some go-to gestures that will help you use your hands so that they match what you're saying to your audience, so that your audience is engaged with you as a speaker and they connect with your message. Now, if you really want to knock it out of the park, get in front of a mirror before you get on that stage or in front of that camera to practice delivering your presentation both verbally and visually. And one last tip, if you are going to be speaking at a cultural event, do your research. Different gestures mean different things in different places, and you don't want to end up insulting or offending your audience. Remember, People who work on their skills are the speakers who stand out for all the right reasons. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. If so, please make sure you give it a thumbs up, which we all know means we approve. If you're interested in learning more about how to become comfortable in front of the camera, even your camera phone, subscribe to this channel. You can also follow us on Facebook at C-Shirk Productions to find more helpful tips, and we'll make sure you never meet a mic you don't like. See you next time.